This podcast is brought to you by Heather's Custom Designs. So Heather is a good friend of mine. I see her all the time. We are doing chamber stuff together, so she's out in her community. She's very heavily involved in her community. She has taken a leap of faith and started this company within the last 6 to 8 months, and she does design work on cups, on shirts. Go check her out on Facebook. She does all kinds of cool stuff. She's even done stuff for me. I've got these AT family. If you're a Star Wars fan, you know what I'm talking about. On the back of my car, she helped me with those. She's amazing. She's also just a kind-hearted, loving soul. So go check her out. Thank you, Heather, for sponsoring this podcast. Let's get this thing started. Welcome to another Paris, Texas, a podcast. This is a podcast where you get to listen to people's stories. People that have either influenced or lived in the city of Paris, Texas. I love hearing their stories, and I can't wait for you to hear the next guest. All right. We are back. Okay, so this guest, I've done some stuff with her. I've even gotten a tour of what she does. We'll get to that. So I'm really excited. I don't know her backstory, so this is going to be fun. Krissy Kreitz, what's up?
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me in today.
I'm excited for this.
Me too. I'm too.
So if people were to know you, where would they know you from right now?
The Reach Center.
The Reach Center.
Most definitely the Reach Center in the Down Syndrome Society. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. So where are you from? Where are you born?
I was born in Brownsville, Tennessee.
Really?
Yep. Lived there till I was 5 years old.
Awesome.
Yep. My mother and father got a divorce. I had an 8-year-old sister.
Okay.
And my grandparents lived in Hugo, Oklahoma at the time.
I know of it.
Yeah, right up the river,
Right
I guess
up the
you
river,
can
yeah.
say. Right across the river. And very messy divorce. Lots of abuse. And so we came to Hugo and lived with my grandparents for quite a while till my mom could get on her feet.
Okay.
And I grew up in Hugo.
Awesome.
Yep. I'm an Okie.
You're an Okie.
The story is out. There's the truth.
A friend of mine, he was on one of the guests on the podcast, Chris Estep, was also from the Hugo area and went to school over there. So we've talked about that area a few times.
Yes.
So did you go to school? How long were you?
I graduated from Hugo.
From Hugo.
Hugo Buffalo, 1996.
There you go,
yes,
Buffalo.
Yes, I started school in kindergarten there
Okay.
because I was 5 when we moved to Oklahoma. And graduated in 1996. But I tell my
Awesome.
husband that I've lived in Texas longer than I lived in Oklahoma, so I can be classified as a Texan.
I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah, he doesn't agree.
He doesn't agree. Wow.
He
Strict.
didn't agree. He's very strict that I'm an Okie.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your thing through school? Like, did you have sports or?
I remember playing softball when I was little. I loved being active and outside.
Awesome.
I was a very hyper child. So I do remember having problems in school quite a bit. A lot of it probably did stem from my childhood and what I had been through. I had a lot of abandonment issues because of the divorce. And my father he ended up eventually giving my sister and I up for adoption. He signed his rights away. I was 8 at that time.
Oh, man.
So I did go through a lot of counseling as a child, and I felt, and at that time, there was no ADD or ADHD. You're just a behavioral child.
Yeah.
You're a behavioral problem. I remember missing several recesses, writing several dictionary pages, but once I got to junior high, my love was banned.
Banned?
My
Really?
love was banned.
What'd you
Yes.
play?
I played the flute.
Awesome.
Yes.
My mother-in-law played the flute growing up, and she still reminisces about it every now and again.
I love it. Joe Watson was actually my band director.
Really?
Yes.
Joe. I see Joe all the time because he's into photography.
He does photography now. He actually was the photographer for my son's Eagle Scout ceremony.
Awesome.
Joe and I go way back. He knows my sister, my mother. And he was the band director for Hugo.
That's amazing.
Until my senior year, and he left my senior year. He got another job, and I believe he went to Prairieland
Okay.
for a short time before he went back to Paris.
Yep.
And but his family lived here. He would drive back and forth. And that year I was like, I'm not going to be in band without Joe Watson.
Oh my goodness.
But he taught me a lot about maturity.
That's good.
Leadership, responsibility, and I just loved band.
That's awesome.
Loved it.
He to me is like one of the photography icons around here, like him and Tony Corso. Like,
yes,
it doesn't matter what event it is. I feel like you look up and you're gonna see one of those two guys.
you are. Yes, you got Tony's drone flying around in the air, and Joe's standing back with his big long lens.
And sometimes he's got like 3 or 4 or something
hanging around his neck.
Yeah, he's got like 5 cameras hanging around his neck.
Yes.
And yeah, he is, and he's so good at what he does.
He is amazing at what he does, and I think that a lot of it with both of them is they have so much passion in what they do.
True, so true.
And that makes a difference, I believe.
It does.
I
love people that do their passion. Okay, so what was your plan coming out of high school? What was the goal?
Well, because of my childhood, I wanted to help children. And I started college at Southeastern Oklahoma State University in Durant.
Okay.
And was working on a childhood psychology degree.
Okay.
And I thought, I want to be that person that helps kids overcome the things that they've gone through in their childhood. And my mother was a phenomenal mother. Still is to this day. But she tried to do everything she possibly could for my sister and I. And it was like, well, I've got to work 3 jobs, so I'm not on welfare and you're not on food stamps and we're not, you know. So I missed my mom. I missed those times with my mom. And I just wanted to let kids know it's okay.
It's okay.
It's all right. It's not your fault. It's not your fault that mom and dad are split up or going through this, and it's okay to have those feelings. They're normal feelings, and this is how we're going to work through those.
Yeah.
So that was my plan.
Okay.
And at the time I was going to school 3 days a week and working in Paris. So that kind of brings me to how I ended up in Paris. I was at college for 3 years at Southeastern, started working at Walmart in Paris, and that's where I met my husband.
Oh, at Walmart.
At Walmart.
Did he work there or was he shopping?
He worked there.
Oh,
no.
wow.
I worked in soft lines and he worked in produce.
Oh, wow.
He tells people that the day I walked in on the first day of my job, he looked at the guy working with him and said, I'm going to marry that lady one day.
Oh, that's
And he was
amazing.
persistent because it took him 6 months before I finally said, okay, I would go out with him.
Really? So were you not was he not fetching enough?
I wasn't. At the time, my focus was school.
Oh,
I wasn't
smart.
really looking for somebody. And I mean, at the time, it was just like, I'm not trying to date. I'm not looking for a relationship. I want to finish school.
Yeah,
and
focus.
We became very, very dear friends, very good friends during that time period.
Yeah.
And we would talk and we would just have long conversations, but we were never officially dating. And he got another job in Longview, Texas. Started working for Kellogg Brown and Root as an electrician.
Awesome.
And when he left,
Front row.
yeah, I told my mom, I said, why do I feel like I've lost my best friend?
Absent grows the heart fonder.
And my heart sank. And 2 weeks later, he came back to town for a weekend. Took me out to eat at Red Lobster in Longview, and we've been together ever since. We celebrated our 20th anniversary in September.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what a good story.
Yep.
I love that.
Yes.
So what about time frame was this?
We got married in 1999, September of 1999.
Awesome.
So that was about 3 years after I graduated high school.
I graduated in 2000, so it's close to the same time.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Well, I got married in 99. You graduated high school in 2000.
It's not that far.
There's a little bit of time difference there.
Just a little bit, though.
Not much.
Not much. No.
We were at church Sunday, and I felt really awkward because Brother Mike wanted everybody that he was talking about millennials.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no.
And he said, if you're under 40, stand up. I didn't get to stand up.
That's not fair.
And I was like looking around at everybody in the church going, I'm sitting down with the elderly.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Did you get on the mic?
I did. I said, next time can you make it like 50?
41.
Please. 41. I could have stood up at 41.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, so y'all,
that was 99.
So 99, you guys are married.
Yep.
Is he still working in Longview?
He had been transferred to Louisiana.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So when we got married, I thought, I'm going to take a break from school. We moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay.
And about 8 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter.
Oh, yay.
And this is kind of where my life takes a big turn to where I really put my faith in God.
Okay.
Big time. Had to.
Yeah. We all need those moments in life.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And prior to that, I've always been a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like you go through seasons in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain seasons that you get to where you feel like, I'm good,
Mm-hmm.
And you turn. You don't necessarily turn from God. You know He's still there, but you feel like you don't need Him as much.
Oh, I know exactly what you're
And I got to that point in my life. And when I found out I was pregnant with Caitlin, I immediately was having complications with my pregnancy. For 6 months, I was sick severely. I was in and out of the hospital a couple of times. And the doctor there, it was like, this is normal, you're fine. Well, here I am, 21 years old, first pregnancy. My mom is in Hugo. We're all the way down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And all I wanted to do was come home.
Be with Mama.
All I wanted to do was come home. So this is kind of where we took a huge leap of faith. My husband's working for a good company. He's making good money. We've got our apartment. And I'm ready to come home. And he tells me, honey, you find a doctor that'll see you. And you get into a doctor so we can get you taken care of. And I'll worry about the job stuff once we get there. We'll handle it. So on a Wednesday in March, I started making phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Mish took me. We loaded up on Thursday. We drove back to Paris, Texas, stayed with his parents, at their house because they worked out doing construction as well. Stayed at their house in Blossom. I was immediately admitted into the hospital for malnutrition and low amniotic fluid. Stayed on bed rest for the remainder of my pregnancy.
Ooh.
My husband ran into a friend at Walmart the
Back
day
at Walmart.
we get into town from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Is talking to him, and he says, hey, we need some help out at KC at the maintenance crew out there. Why don't you go talk to them, meet so-and-so up at the guard shack? My husband was back at work that next Monday.
That's amazing.
Yes. So that's where I was like, okay, Lord, I know that when I 100% put my faith in you, you've got me.
Yeah.
You've got us.
It's crazy. Sometimes you have to look back at those open doors because I think a lot of times people can get lost in the emotions of the situation or whatnot,
Right.
and it's hard to look back at these. Oh my goodness, he opened that door, and he opened that door, and he opened that door.
Right.
Me and my wife do that kind of stuff all the time where we sit down and talk about like how did we get here? How did this happen? And we look back and look at these doors that open, and it's really amazing.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes it's years down the road before you see that door was open.
Right.
And when you do, it's one of those, aha, that was God.
Yeah.
And thank you for that.
And what's also hard, this is off topic just a tiny bit, but something in our life is there's sometimes he opens a door that feels like you went through the wrong door. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, what did I do? Mm-hmm. But it was like a hallway to the right door.
Right.
But sorry, that was off subject, but it's just on my heart. So
yeah, no, I agree 100%.
So he was back to work.
He was back to work. We were back in our own house by May. So 2 months.
Yeah.
Within 2 months, we were back, steady job.
So how long did you have to be on bed rest?
Caitlin was born in June.
So how is
So
that?
3 months.
3 months. You
3
were
months.
in a bed.
Uh-huh.
Could you leave the bed? Is it like bed / couch rest?
It's like I could go from the bed to the couch.
Okay.
But I wasn't allowed to. I mean, it was literally you get up, you go to the bathroom, you go back to the couch. You go to the bed. I had at the time my grandmother and my aunt. My mama was driving a truck cross country at that time with her third husband. Another childhood, she was married 3 times. Just went through her 3rd divorce. And so that was a season in her life where she had taken off, for a while. But between my grandmother and my aunt, they came over and cleaned and helped. And my sister would come over quite a bit and help me.
Awesome.
The one that's 3 years older than me. And so when I guess it was about a week before Caitlin was born, I went and saw Dr. Mitch. I was having to have ultrasounds every week. Once a week, I'd have to go up to the hospital and have an ultrasound done to check her growth, Caitlin's growth, make sure things were going well, make sure the amniotic fluid was okay, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And, at the time, we're just thinking you're having a tough pregnancy. Yeah. This is tough for you. But we find out later that wasn't it at all.
Oh, no.
When Caitlin was born, and we didn't find out until she was 15 months old, but Caitlin has developmental and intellectual disabilities.
Okay.
She basically, the pons part of her brain is underdeveloped. So she's got a part of her brain that handles all the motor skills and all the sensory things that go from the brain to the rest of the body and vice versa. And through her spinal cord is very underdeveloped. So we, here I am, find out at 6 months old, she's 6 months old, that she's got this thing going on.
Yeah.
And we have to wait to get in to see a pediatric neurologist. So we waited till she was 15 months old. So she was born June 2000, and in August of 2001, we sat in an office with a pediatric neurologist. I'm holding my baby, and he's telling me she'll never walk or talk. And I just looked at him and said, I appreciate that. I appreciate the time you've put into your medical degree, but I have a God that's more powerful than your medicine. So she proved them wrong when she was 3.5. She started walking. Oh. Yes. So, and she's with us today. She's 19 years old.
I've met her.
Yes. Yep.
She's a bundle of joy.
She is. And I was asked not too long ago if and I shared this with Heather the other day, if I could go back and change or take away anything about Caitlin, would I do that? And I didn't even hesitate. My answer's no.
Yeah.
There's no way I would change who she is. She has given me purpose.
Yes.
More people in this town and community see God's love in her. Somebody that doesn't verbalize with their mouth.
Right.
And she just, she can put a smile on anybody's face.
Joy. Full of joy.
And, I mean, I've heard, of course, our after-school program at the Reach Center is named after Johnny Stallings.
Yep.
And so Coach Gene Stallings is a really dear friend of ours. And he has said many, many times when he has given speeches that if there's one thing that a parent wants for their child, it's that they go to heaven. And he believes that children with disabilities, they have that one-way ticket to heaven. And she's got it. And there's no doubt in my heart that she was not put on this earth. She has a purpose, just like everybody else. And her being born is what has brought me where I am today.
Amazing. Yeah, I've been around her a couple times because I've been in y'all's. Liam did a tour of y'all's place, and then we've done a couple chambers things there.
Yes.
And, every time I've seen her, she's just always happy, and she's so involved with everyone around her.
Yes.
And she's always wanting to help you, and it's just I don't know. She's just there's so much joy. I can't think of a better word for it that she just brings around her when she's there.
Yes, she does.
It's amazing.
She's full of it.
So with that, so you still haven't got your finished your education, right?
I did not. When Caitlin was born, I decided that the Lord was leading me in a different field. And so
still children, just
of course.
different.
I went back to school for special education.
Awesome.
And I ended up getting my degree from Texas A&M University Commerce in 2004, and I graduated with a master's in elementary education, and my specialization is special ed.
Yes.
So I can teach EC through 12 special education.
So, and I think I've heard you tell this part of the story, and so that might help me lead you around a little bit. But so after you finished that, you started at a school, right?
I did. The reason it took me a little bit longer to get that education, finish that from the time Caitlin was born up until 2004, was she had to have a couple surgeries. I gave birth to my second son. Wesley Kreitz. He's amazing. He was born June 2003. And then we had trouble with childcare. Major trouble with childcare for Caitlin. It was very tough to find a facility that could help her. That was not that they didn't try. There were some that I was iffy about, but they weren't equipped to help a child with special needs. And we're still at the point, she's 2 and still not walking. So they're like, okay, do we put her in the infant toddler room? Do we move her? What do we do here? And so it took me a lot longer. Jimmy would keep her at nights while I would take night classes. And I had a dear friend that would keep her for me when I was going over to Commerce. And so it's just, it did take me a little longer to finish that. But I did teach. I went to teach at Paris School District.
Okay.
I did some time in Head Start for a couple of years. And because of my special ed background and having a child that we were teaching sign language at the time because she was still nonverbal, and they would put the kids in my classroom that had the disabilities that needed more help, that needed that more support. And then I spent some time in a behavior unit, which I was really enjoyed that because that's where my heart was. I was a behavior kid, and I understood those. I understood that, and
get on their level.
Right, and I just have a heart even for our kids at the center that come in with behavioral problems. I'm like, let's talk about this. Let's figure out. And I tell my staff all the time, we have weekly staff meetings, and we talk about those scenarios and those situations. And I say, you've got to remember, what are they coming from? What is their environment like at home? Did they come to school without breakfast this morning? Were they running late? Did mama yell at them before they got out of the car? And I would take those things into account with those kiddos. I have a inspiration story, I guess, kind of when I was at the behavior unit. I wasn't there but half a semester because they ended up doing away with it at Paris School District. It was at Justice, and I was there half a semester, and I had 2 boys in the class. It was 4th grade, and I didn't think I was making much of an impact. When you've got kids that have been through major trauma, and one of these boys had been severely abused. His mom and his mom's boyfriend were in jail for the abuse. One of the severe abuse cases against him was he had boiling hot water thrown on his body. And I would not think he was really listening to me when I would talk to him, and I would I would go up to him and I would say, I understand. You don't understand nothing. You haven't been through. Well, when I would explain to him, you're right. I've never had boiling hot water poured on me. I don't know what you're feeling. It's okay to have those feelings. And we would work through those processes and kind of fast forward a little bit to how I feel like you never know when you're going to make an impact on somebody's life, because I really felt like I've been here half a semester. This kid had no respect for me. I did nothing for him. I was in Brookshire's about 3 years ago, and he's graduated high school. I would kind of check up on him every once in a while with his case manager through the school because I connected with him. And he was sent to Terrell several times. I mean, in and out of the hospital and those sorts of things. And then when I ran into him in Brookshire's, I noticed this older person follow me around, in his lower 20s. And I thought, who is this person? Why are they following me around? I'm here for a gallon of milk. I've been at work since 7 o'clock. And this dude is following me around the store. I got nervous.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Well, finally, we get back up to the register, and he was in front of me. And he kept looking at me, and I kept looking at him because, I saw him in 4th grade, and here we are, 20-year-old, 21-year-old. And he looks at me, and he smiles. Well, in one of his abuse cases, he had a tooth knocked out. And when he smiled and I saw that tooth, I knew immediately who he was. And I called him by name, and I looked at him, and I said, my goodness. You remember me? And he said, how could I forget you?
Aww.
And I said, what do you mean? He said, I want to show you something. He said, you listened to me and you encouraged me and you led me to believe that what I had gone through as a child had not identified who I was going to be as an adult. And I thought to myself, I don't recall saying that, but okay. He pulls his phone out and he pulls pictures up on his phone of him graduating culinary school.
Aww.
He had gone to culinary school. And at that moment, it was like, wow, I made an impact. Even though I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't think I was doing anything major, I've made an impact on this person's life.
That's amazing.
So it makes a difference what you do and what you put into your community. Whether you're a school teacher or a nonprofit executive director, a pastor, a grocery store worker, it makes a difference. You never know when what you say or what you do is going to change for somebody.
Agreed. That's amazing story.
Yeah. But I went on after that and taught 2 years of special education. And I just felt the Lord telling me, this isn't really what you need to be doing. Yeah, you're teaching. I had 4 kids in my class. The class grew from 4 to about 10. I had an assistant, and I wanted to do more for them. I wanted them in the gen ed classroom. I wanted them eating in the classroom, in the lunchroom with the other kids, not having their food brought in with them. And I wanted them to be recognized for who they were and not just the kids in that special ed building. And I thought, I don't know how much I can do sitting in this classroom. Once they leave me, that's it. How can I continue to do more? I became pregnant with my 3rd child at the time, and I ended up on bed rest again.
Oh, no.
And this one was from a incident at school. I had a kiddo that was running. I chased him. I fell, trying to catch him to keep him from running into the streets. And James, my 3rd one, was born in November of 2009. And he'll be 10 coming up the 30th of this month, and he is reminding us about it daily. I'm fixing to be 10. I'm going into the double digits now. Does that mean I'm a teenager? No.
No.
You're still not getting on your own phone. You're still not staying up past 9 o'clock. No. So, in December, I'd already had that time set aside to be off for maternity leave. And I just talked to the director and I said, I don't feel like I'm supposed to come back. And God had put somebody in that classroom to cover for me during my maternity leave that was fixing to graduate with her special ed degree.
Awesome.
So it worked out that she was able to become the teacher. So they weren't left without a teacher.
Awesome.
I spent a couple of years at home being a mom, taking care of James. And then I felt I've got to go do something. I need to do more. Mm-hmm. And that's where I entered into the Down Syndrome Society and Reach Center. Mm-hmm. I joined their board of directors in 2010, late 2010. And James was old enough to start going to Episcopal Day School at that time when he turned 2. So I thought, well, let's do 2 days a week. I'll go volunteer up there. Mm-hmm. So 2011, I met Gina Crawford. Amazing, amazing, amazing lady. She was their administrative assistant at the time. They had lost their executive director of the organization, and I'd go up there and we'd work together, a couple of days a week. And then I thought, well, I'm going to do this more. So it went to 3 days a week. And then throughout that year of 2011, I found a passion for helping not just a small classroom or 2 kids in a behavior unit or kids that get brought to me as clients because of abuse, but I can help all individuals with disabilities and the community, and what we can pour into this can make a big, huge change for not just the kids, but the families, and in turn, the community. And so I was taking grant writing classes. I was taking leadership classes. Gina and I, we were putting on the fundraisers, and I thought, well, this is easy. I can do this. And in January of 2012, I was offered the position of executive director.
Awesome.
So,
were y'all in that same building, or were y'all in a different building?
No, we were in a 1,200 square foot office space in is it Walnut Village Shopping Center there in Reno?
Yes. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yes. And we had a small buddy baseball program at the time. Mm-hmm. We had a one-on-one tutoring program where we had about 3 or 4 kids that would come in and get their one-on-one tutoring with one special education teacher. Gina and I both were just part-time. We were working 20 hours a week, and then we would do our awareness calendar. And the board, we started thinking about other things and how to expand. And we had these, kids that were being put on the waiting list because we only had one room to do the tutoring in and only one teacher. And it just so happens, Gina and I'll never forget the day we went and met with her, went to the hospital to talk about the gala that year. And it was early in the summer. And while we were there, we were talking about some goals. And we're like, oh, yeah, in the future, we would like to have a building, and we would like to do this, and we would like to do that. And little did we know, a phone call gets made. We get a phone call later asking us if we want to go look at the old health department. Well, it's the new health department. It was the old human resource building where New Hope and the health department are right now. And I thought, we're not ready yet.
Not today.
We weren't like, Gina and I were looking at each other like, what? These are long-term goals, not like next week goals.
Yeah.
So what we had to do is we went to the board, and the board's like, well, let's just see what we can do. Maybe, let's just play around with this and see what happens.
Yeah.
But we need some comparables. We went and looked at that facility. I had drove by the old special ed building there on Lamar Avenue so many times and saw it just sitting empty. And remembered sitting in there when Caitlin started school and talking to those people and getting her started, and thought to myself several times as I would drive by that place, that would be an awesome place. And at the time, of course, when I would drive by there, it was so unrealistic, and it was like, oh, you'll never open your own business. What are you doing? You know? And we called, Gina called Robert High, and he said, come look at it. Meet me up there. So we went up there, we looked at it, and old blue carpet. The tiles were falling out of the ceiling, insulation everywhere. We're like, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. Well, he takes us outside after we look through it, and he says, just make an offer.
Yeah.
The church down the road that the alternative school was at, they just made an offer. We need to get rid of this thing. And that year, Leadership Lamar County picked us as their project. Our board of directors approved a budget that included that facility, and we took a huge leap of faith as an organization. And we moved in November of 2012.
That's amazing.
So this was about 8 months after I became an executive director.
That's a lot.
I have gone from teaching 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, being a stay-at-home mom, to running an organization. And I immediately knew the only way I could do that was with God's help.
Well, obviously.
There was no way I was going to do it alone. God's help and Gina Crawford, because Caitlin had to have another surgery. I was working she was put in Scottish Rite for 3 months, in 2013, and the building was fixing to start getting remodeled. And Gina sat there at that office, kept that place going while I worked from Scottish Rite Hospital room. Amazing.
Yeah.
She was just amazing. And we finished the remodel. Took us 2 years. Brand new roof, windows, flooring. Took down walls, added doors.
Yeah.
Had to add another escape door, exit door for fire code, and opened our Johnny Stallings program in 2015,
That's
August.
Amazing.
Yep.
That's so amazing.
Yep.
So tell us what all you offer at that facility.
Well, we do, that facility is really known for the after school and summer programming. We have individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities that come to us, as well as their siblings. They can be age 3 all the way up to, we had a 17-year-old there last summer. And the goals aren't that we're just going to keep your child here and watch them and keep them safe. We educate. We work on social skills. We work on academic skills. We've got one that she comes in and she knows first right off the bat, when she walks in that door, she puts her backpack up in the afternoons and she grabs the brush and she starts brushing her hair. She doesn't get those things at home. And so we're working on teaching her that. We work on your behavioral skills. We've got one that, like I said, he gets very overstimulated very easily, and so we work on those sensory things. Well, let's do this. We work on cognitive skills. That everybody has a schedule. They get technology time. It's just a phenomenal program where they grow. They love coming. I was up at Crockett at lunch today visiting one of my other students, and we had one that comes just during the summertime when his mom is at work during the summer, and he ran up to me and he was like, Miss Krissy, I miss Reach. I want to come back to Reach. And I said, you'll be back this summer. So they love it. They love being there. We have crafts. We do games with them, but everything is learning.
Yeah.
It's all about what are your expectations for them? And if you expect them to never learn how to brush their hair and never try to teach them to brush their hair, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's with any typical child.
Right.
If you don't expect them to learn their ABCs, they're not going to learn their ABCs, but we will sit down with them one-on-one and go through. Even if they can't say that's the letter A, we're going to put an A and an L in front of them and say, pick the L. And have them, we pick their goals, we teach at their level, and we work on what they can do. And
awesome.
Our big focus is what can they do, not what can't they do.
It's amazing.
And we had 31 kids this past summer.
It's great. 14
adults, 14 staff. We really, really keep our staff to student ratio very, very low. Your typical child care facility after school program is usually like 1 to 22, 2 to 22, and they have like centers set up. But we're very specialized in what we do. Our staff go through more training than just the general training for a state licensed child care facility, which we are state licensed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, y'all recently got within the last year or so, a playground, right, in the back?
Oh, that was done in 2017. That was actually a Eagle Scout project from my son, Wesley.
That's amazing.
Yes, he spends a lot of time there. He overheard us talking about it and knew that we needed it to continue to be certified to keep kids during the summer, because one of the things is you have to have an hour of outdoor activity scheduled if the weather's permitting. And we would take them outside, but all we had was this big dirt plot, So he said, Mama, I'm ready for my Eagle project. Let me do that. So between Troop 2 Boy Scouts with Wesley doing the project and leading that, we had several people in town donate. We needed a French drain put in, and Grayson caught word of that. He was still working for Red River Landscaping at the time, Grayson Jones. His family is members of the organization.
Awesome.
And he does amazing stuff for us. And he talked to the owners at Red River Landscaping, and they came and put in a French drain for us at no cost.
It's amazing.
And so that got done. We've got a fence put in. We've got a musical area, a big $15,000 playground piece of equipment that was installed and put in, and the kids love it.
They do. I've been back there. They love it.
Yes, they love it. Chalkboard on the wall.
Yeah.
Yesterday, one of the staff was sending me videos of them picking up leaves and throwing the leaves in the air, because we've got a ton of leaves back there right now, but they love it. And they're just like everybody else. I mean,
yes,
they just happen to have this little
quirk
that they behave differently, or they walk differently, or they may not use their mouth to talk. Instead, they use sign language or a app on their iPad like Caitlin does. I mean, she communicates with her app on her iPad more than anything.
And that's totally okay for them to be that way.
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. They are God's children and deserve love and respect, and to be seen for who they are and not what they have, just like everybody else in this world.
Agree 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is an amazing story.
Thank you.
So amazing. Thank you for being on my podcast.
I appreciate you having me. I have enjoyed this so much. I really have.
I love hearing people's stories, and I love it, and I love hearing stories like yours. It's just there's so many doors opening. There's so many, it's so fun to look back and see all the positive that has happened.
Yeah.
Because of the circumstances and how things worked out. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wonderful when you let go and let God what can happen in your life and where he can bring you. And, you know, on June 19th of 2000, when Caitlin was placed in my arms, I did not see myself as an executive director of a nonprofit organization. And here we are, 19, almost 20 years later, and because of that little girl being placed in my arms, having the disabilities that she has, then now I feel like the impact that our organization is making in this community is huge.
Yes.
I mean, I've had parents tell me they wouldn't be able to work if it wasn't for us because their kids couldn't go to any other facility in town.
And that's amazing.
So we've potty trained kids. It's amazing. I could give 1,000 success stories, but I know you don't have time and nobody else does either.
But it's just still so amazing to just to see it.
Yeah. Well, I invite anybody to come up there to the Reach Center. We're located right before Liberty National Bank as you're headed downtown on Lamar Avenue. And I mean, we've got buttons on the door and you can't just walk in because of the safety of our kiddos. But I would love to give anybody a tour, invite anybody to come out and just see what we do.
And heck, maybe they'll get involved, be a part of something.
Hey, we're always looking for volunteers to help out. Our kids love to be read to. We've had people come up and just sit and interact and read to the kids.
It's amazing.
And they love seeing new faces all the time.
That's amazing.
We do school supply drives. I mean, we're constantly looking. If people can't give time or donations, of course, money's always great. Because
you've got a gala coming up, right?
We do. We have our Snowflakes and Diamonds Gala coming up January the 11th.
Awesome.
6 to 11:30 at the Love Civic Center.
Is there an auction? Is that right?
Oh, yeah. We have a silent auction that usually has about 50 to 60 items and then a live auction. And some of the things, we've already started getting our live auction items. Like, of course, we always have something from Coach Stallings there that's autographed. And we've already gotten 4 VIP pass tickets to a tour of the Dallas Cowboys Stadium.
Oh, yay.
2 Miranda Lambert tickets. Heather's Custom Designs donated 2 $250 gift certificates for her work. So we're super excited about it. It's going to be a hit. We get out there. We are looking for sponsorships. Tickets are on sale. But if you know you already can't come but want to still help, we also look for sponsors for our families.
Yes.
We like for our families to be involved in what we do. And we know that a family of 5 with a child with Down syndrome can't afford to come to our event at $65 a ticket. And so last year, for example, American Spiral Weld was one of our sponsors. And they were like, look, we want to help out. Here's your sponsorship, but we can't use those tickets. We were able to give those tickets to a family that would not have otherwise been able to come and enjoy an event of an organization that they love so well.
It's awesome. It's so amazing.
So,
thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
This was a great podcast.
I
enjoy you.
Oh, thank you.
Admire what you do for our community.
Thank you so much. It's about the community.
It is so much about the community.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've always urged my listeners, find that thing that you want to be involved in the community and jump on board. And this is just another way that if they are passionate about this field, here's a perfect place for them to get involved.
Right. And I'm just one of several. I mean, people don't realize how many nonprofits are in this town. The United Way alone has 25 partnering agencies. And that's probably not even half
of what there are
of what's in this community. So reach out and find where your heart is and get involved in your community, because this community, you live here and your family lives here, your neighbors live here, and just get involved and be a part of something that you love.
Right.
Yeah.
Just find that one thing. It doesn't have to be everything. It doesn't have to all in. It doesn't even really. Most of these things only need you once a week, sometimes even once a month, depending on what it is. Like board. A lot of time, board members just are only needed once a month.
Once a month.
If you are, lucky enough to be invited into that. Like it's really not that. It's not that time consuming.
Right.
As people, I think in their heads, they think, oh, it's going to just take up all my time and I don't have any time. I mean, yeah, if you're on 5 boards, maybe, or if you're in 5 different volunteering places, but just to do one, just pick one and be involved.
And, something that I've learned along the way is I went in headstrong. I was involved with Troop 2. I was involved with Pack 2. I mean, really involved in Cub Scouts. I was extremely involved in my organization, and I was hands in on everything. And last summer, I ended up in the hospital with a double pulmonary embolism in my heart. And I was actually told that it was a miracle that I'm even here today. I was rushed over to Plano Heart Hospital in Baylor, and Baylor Heart Hospital in Plano, and they had to do a procedure to go in there and bust up those blood clots. And it was at that moment that I took a step back again in my life. 1, thanking the Lord for letting me be here. And 2, I said, because I was out for quite a while after that. And it was kind of, that there's a song out there, I can't remember the name of it, but it's, when you're still, you really focus on the Lord, and it's like, be still, Lord. I can't think of it. Y'all don't want me to sing either, I promise. It's during those times when I think that you really do focus on the Lord, and what is your purpose in life, and what just happened here.
Yeah.
I was just almost taken away from my family, and it made me stop and go, you need to slow down and put your focus back where it's supposed to be. And so I come up with this philosophy. Do you want to be involved in about 16 different things and do a little bit on each of them? Or do you want to do what you really love and be involved in that one thing and do it really, really, really well?
I agree with that.
So, yeah.
This coming from the guy that does like a lot of different things.
But you still do what you're doing well.
I do.
You're doing it well.
I just do it for a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Thank you again so much for being on the podcast.
Yes.
I just want to give one more big shout out to Heather Hayes from Heather's Custom Designs. She sponsored this podcast. Actually, what happened, just a short little story. She called me yesterday?
Monday. Yeah, was that yesterday?
That was yesterday. She called me yesterday and super excited. She was on fire about something. And she was just like, hey, I heard you have sponsorships on your podcast. And I'm like, yes, I do. And she's like, I want to sponsor one, but I want you to do someone super special. And I was like, well, who is it? And then she told me, I was like, done, sold. So that's how this podcast came to be. Heather suggested it. So if you ever have a suggestion, feel free to call me or find me on my Facebook group. You can suggest people there. And if you want to sponsor a podcast, I would love you to sponsor a podcast. So that's also an option. And yeah, just thanks for joining us. And as always, we put out one every Monday. So join us next week for another podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank y'all.